Hello, hello, hello everybody, welcome back to Loads of PC and welcome back to the Invictus play-by-email game on War in the Pacific. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the end of our first month and our entry into 1942. Always feels kind of weird when you kind of enter into 1942 in this game because it's like, oh god, 1942, there's a lot going on, but it's so early into this campaign that you kind of have to keep that in mind and understand that. So, at the moment, things are, going somewhat alright for us. There's a lot of stuff that we are kind of underway. Malaya is moving forward, the Philippines are moving forward, so our kind of main campaigns there are going pretty solid, and we're happy with that because by doing that we can therefore make sure that we can get onto the next areas we need to look at, the Dutch East Indies, then start looking at where we might be able to go on the defensive, particularly in places that we've already captured, like the Solomon Islands and Guadalcanal, etc. So, one thing we've got going on here is a couple of our ships, again, hitting mines in Balikpapan. Again, I think that's Invictus is doing. I think he's laid some mines there, and it's a really good idea because, it wasn't really something I was prepared for. I'm obviously basing, this knowledge. This is my first real PBM. I keep calling it PBM, but it's PBEM. But I've only played a game against my friend OCB, who we've talked about a few times, and a streamed version of this. So I'm basing my knowledge off that and what people do. So this is where I have to be careful. This is where we keep up our ideas of recon and things like that. And when that kind of doesn't happen, we get issues like this, ships hitting mines, which is not great. Here we have one of our destroyers trying to find a Dutch submarine. There is some damage being done to the submarine, which again is really good. That's stuff we always want to see. We want to see that damage happening to submarines. Again, even if we don't sink them, enough damage is going to keep them in port. The problem we have at the moment is that actually there is areas and ports that these submarines can go in, get somewhat, repaired to a state where they can come back out. Good news is that one of those ports, Manila, has now been taken by us. We took that last time, and it was a open city, so to speak. Invictus has moved his troops in the Philippines to Clark Field, and he's going to hold Clark Field, and I imagine then hold Bataan as well. Fair enough. I am surprised he hasn't tried to hold Manila. Urban combat might have made it a little bit trickier for me to do whatever it is I needed to do, but he's got his plan. We have to make sure we work with that, and I'm kind of glad we got Manila for nothing really. It did mean I had to divert some forces, which has meant I've lost a few troops in and around Clark Field, but yeah, in general, it's a net positive for us, but it does mean that we're going to have a bit of a fight over Clark Field, so we need to see how that goes on. Again, more ships hitting mines in Balikpapan. I have no idea how many he's put down there, but hopefully we can capture Balikpapan soon enough. Ships stay in port, we move some DMSs, get rid of them. We managed to use those DMSs to good effect in Hong Kong recently, so hopefully we can do exactly the same again in Balikpapan. So, got our raids going on Clark Field, some Betty bombers and Nels, a few hits here and there, nothing exceptional, but still kind of doing what we need. Some Sallies coming over, again nothing too special, but yeah, stuff is actually happening, and we are causing some casualties. We just got to be careful that we don't lose aircraft doing these raids and things like that, because our industry isn't as good as we'd like it to be. So particularly Sallies is something that we are a little bit, we run a little low on early in the game if we kind of lose too many. So they're good bombers, 4 times 250 kilo bombs. We want to make sure we've got as many of those as we can. So again, Invictus is doing his kind of, scorched earth kind of tactics, which, yeah, again, makes a lot of sense, and is something that can be a nightmare for us. Again, though, as we said last time, these are at bases that we're not really planning on using for a little while. And because of that, I'm quite happy for him to do this. Let him bombard these bases. Let him, keep focus on there while we go and attack other things and things like that. So, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, this is totally fine for us. So, some more recon going on. We got our afternoon air raids happening now. So far it is just recon at the moment, but we'll see what ends up flying about. It's a lot of recon today, which is always an interesting one. So, we've got some sub-chasers here trying to hit the S40, and we are seeing some damage going on here. Now, we do get severe damage as well, and what is even more interesting is that in a moment we will see that we lose contact with this submarine. Now, losing contact with that sub does suggest to me that we have sunk it. So there, we kind of lose our contact with that submarine, and to me that does suggest, that we did sink it. We also have our landing here at Gas Martyr, which is always good and useful. Again, trying to take New Britain as quickly as we can. We have a deliberate attack up near Xinjiang. Let's see how this goes. Not too bad. Unfortunately, we didn't break through. Oh, sorry, no, the opposite. It's quite bad for us. 500 casualties we took there for only 71, which is not good. Got that the wrong way around. This is something that we're more interested in, though, which is our deliberate attack at Balikpapan and a capture, which is super important, to capture Balikpapan. And this is good for us. We barely lost any troops. Ships, on the other hand, is a different question, but barely lost any troops taking Balikpapan, so all good there. And we also have another landing here on the southern Philippines, Mindanao. So again, trying to put pressure on Invictus as much as we can. Not let him get comfortable, not let him know that we've got troops here and we're going to be going up this way, etc., etc. So yeah, this is one of those things where I think, going into the 1st of January 1942, I'm kind of happy with how this month has gone. I think we've been expanding pretty steadily. I wouldn't necessarily say that we have been, super aggressive, but I think we've been aggressive in the right areas. A couple of air bases that I just want to stop from building. And we also have some troops here in Bataan, just kind of, in Manila, that we're just making sure are on the move and heading up. Now, something we do have to just be careful of is that garrison, but it should be fine. And I'm just kind of checking what we've got all around. And we've got some, a large amount of units down here that will slowly move up. This is the problem. This landing, which is, a significant landing down at the south of Luzon, it takes a while to get up there, which is a bit of a nightmare. Now, let's have a look at how bad things are at Balikpapan. And as you can see, a lot of these ships are screwed. They have taken a lot of damage. Now, what we will have to do is, again, as mentioned, we'll have to get some DMS over there. We'll have to make sure that something we do is make sure that, they are ready and, getting some repairs so we can move them to other repair bases. At the moment, I think they're just going to have to stay in Balikpapan, stay hidden. What we're going to do here is the port capacity at Balikpapan has already been built up. It's already as high as it can be, which is good for us. For the future, but something we do need to be careful of is that Balikpapan is a serious oil and refinery. So it's a massive oil production site and a good fuel refinery. Invictus, if he wants to carry on with his scorched earth policies, this would be the ideal place for it. Now, the problem with that for us is, or what we want to make sure we're doing, is getting some aircraft there. We already have some AA units there, but that's not really going to be enough to deter him. We need extra aircraft down there. We don't have a air base or an air force company there yet, but we will get that done very quickly to make sure, again, we can station aircraft. If he attacks us with anything, those aircraft then can, our fighters can try to shoot those down, keep him away from it, etc., etc. So that's all super important. Taping Taiping here as well, which is also really key. And here we can see our troops that have landed at Mindanao, and they're going to move in as well. Kind of all come together to try our best to smash the troops on Mindanao, capture it as quickly as we can. Then we can kind of sort ourselves out with other troops and kind of a garrison force there. And then once we've got that sorted, the Philippines be even more under our control. And that's just incredibly important. The Philippines is somewhere that we are going to be using as jumping off points for bases. It's going to be a supply base. It's got a lot of resources and all that jazz. So, main target, getting it secured quickly is fantastic. So, just kind of, again, having a look around, just double checking everything we've kind of got here. What key units we have and where. Moving stuff around if we need to. All that, kind of jazz. And in particular, looking at maybe aircraft that we can move as well. But before that, something that we do want to maybe move is, looking at moving our bases and stuff like that around. But here, we are going to move some aircraft and hopefully move some bases or some airfield battalions along with them. Move both, then everything is good. Add a few more ships to this, make sure that we've got plenty of cargo and troop transport capacity. And these guys we will send to Balikpapan. So we're going to send some fighters, send our bases. I said we wanted to get that done as soon as possible. Here we go. Elsewhere, just kind of seeing how we are getting on in Malaya. There's still loads of submarines around. We've got loads of patrol ships as well. These are the ships that took on the S-40 last time. And I'm just checking how many depth charges they have. They still have a fair few. But something I want to see is seeing if we can already see if that submarine has sunk. So we're going to go to submarines here. And yeah, it is reporting that the S-40 has been sunk. So, that is intriguing. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean just if it's on there that it's actually completely gone. But it is still good to kind of see. And here I'm just seeing what ships we have sunk. Again, it doesn't suggest that we sunk a lot at Pearl Harbor, which is frustrating. I know we did a lot of damage at Pearl Harbor. Not a single ship managed to make it out of Pearl Harbor without any damage. But it is frustrating to me to see that there is not a single ship, or there's only 2 American battleships that sunk at Pearl Harbor. But then there is a flip side to this, because yes, those ships are, if the ships are sunk, they're not coming back. Although with American and Allied production, they do get a lot of ships, and a lot of them do get replaced, etc., that were at Pearl Harbor. So they're out of action for a while. But something else that is more significant is that if they are not sunk, either Invictus has to scuttle them, or they're going to clog up bases and clog up repair areas, repair shipyards, if he is planning to repair them at all. So he kind of has those 2 options there. A part of me would have liked to sink them, but that would have been points. And something that me and OCB were discussing, because we chat about this game a lot, was we were talking about that there is a kind of tendency in the community to point chase. Yes, I am curious to make sure that something we don't do is, end up being behind and end up giving away an immediate victory to the Allies. But I think point chasing is something that I'm not really too keen in. I want to play the game. I want to enjoy what's going on with that, and stuff like that. So yeah, it'd be nice to get those ships sunk, but really, getting them damaged the way we did is really, really good anyway. So, a large amount of Air Force companies here, okay, and we are going to move these down to Rabaul. This is the start of us making sure that Rabaul is going to be our kind of forward base going forward. If we want to invade Port Moresby, if we want to then push on into Australia, we need to capture and make sure that, we obviously need to capture Port Moresby, but we need to make sure that Rabaul is somewhere that is extremely, built up. It's got a decent air base, it's got a decent naval base. So that's something we need to make sure that we've got. We will also, send some troops, some boats here, some cruisers and some destroyers to make sure that they are merging and supporting those transports, because those are pretty precious transports. Now, it is the 1st of January, and it is the first of a new month, and we're going to do something now that is really important to kind of do every month or so, and this is checking on pilot training, okay? So, in Japan, and the same for the Allies, in places like the US and India and stuff like that, both me and Invictus will have squadrons that all they are doing is training, okay? These are guys that have come out of basic flight school, have been assigned to a squadron, and are now training, with these aircraft. And generally, the rule of thumb is that depending on the job you want them to do, you want them to have a level about 70 for that job. So, for example, with Nates are going to be our fighter pilots. Okay, they're going to be training in those, particularly in Japan. So, if they get a air level of 70, that means they're pretty good. And then we can put them into the reserve. And from that means that if we need to get pilots for squadrons on the front line, and other areas that are key to have good fighter pilots, we can make sure we give them that. So that's what we're going to be going through. I'm going to do most of this off stream, so you guys can't see it. But thank you very much for joining us today, and we will be back very, very soon. At the end of this, I am just going to add a short little video explaining escort missions, because I explained it recently in one of our live streams. So if you want to stick around for that, then it'll be starting right about now. Cheers. Thank you very much. And it's oil, which is totally fine. So those guys, these are our bombers. They're going to fly out. So if we have a P-40 Warhawk also set to escort, it is going to kind of realize that its range is too far, even though it's using drop tanks. But these guys will fly with them as far as they can. If we go to Impal, we have some Hurricanes here that are actually due to upgrade to Kitty Hawks. These are some New Zealanders. But what we can do is, if we set these guys to escort as well, select target Magway, then they can, if they meet up with the bombers, they will then escort them at the same time. Things that help escort missions succeed: same height, same base. Okay. Other than that, it's a little bit of a chance it and see.